So, also touching upon cybersecurity. So, what are the best practices for innovation and cybersecurity?
Before you create any offer or before you reach out to any customer, right? You should first need to understand the difference between the need and want for that customer. Technology per se, GenAI, AI, open banking, embedded finance, these all are there. But the mindset is that I need to treat my customer separately, individually. So regulation cannot be a roadblock. Every time we are building something, right? Let's say we have built one deposit journey or we build some lending journey, the consent is very important.
Welcome to another episode of Aranca Insights. In this episode, we delve into digital banking. Today, we have with us Abhijit De, and Abhijit is an experienced leader who has spent years in helping banks realize their digital potential. So, Abhijit, thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks for your time. And why don't we start with a quick introduction about yourself and your digital journey so far?
Yeah, thanks, Anshuman. Thanks, Siddharth. Um, Thanks for having me here. Just to start with, I have started my career in technology, right? I started with one of the IT MNCs. Then and in initial days, I was into banking project in technology. I built couple of, or not build, I mean, I helped to build couple of, technology platform for a few MNC banks. And then I moved to 82 category company. I had the entire ERP implementation. Then I moved to a Australian fintech where I used to manage the uh, inward remittance APIs, right? So for me, for last 8 years, or probably 9 years, I'm working with API and API based product, right? And those days it used to be SOAP APIs. Then that REST and all those new technology came, and then I joined another largest or one of the largest private bank in India. Then I moved to another private bank, and I work around these banking APIs, banking digital products, right? And also few of the conversational platforms, right? So this is my career. And uh, for me, customers, they need product, and for every product there should be a problem statement, and that statement should be solutionized by a product, right? So that's how I see the entire banking or entire digital banking space.
Excellent. Abhijit, why don't we start with your views on the latest trends which are impacting the banking industry. So the latest digital trends which are impacting the banking industry.
I mean, if we talk about digital trends, obviously Gen AI, hyper personalized, these all I can comment on it. But personally, if you ask me, one uh, point of view which has got changed in last 3 4 years is that now everything is very much customer first approach,
Hmm.
right? It's very customer centric approach. uh, Previously, if you go back to 7 years or 6 7 years ago, then those are the days when we used to talk about business centric approach, or strategic. There should be some strategy, and your approach should be around that strategy. But now everything is around customer and their choices, right? Because the competition is very high. uh, Even in your own organization, you have two three multiple product which can conflict to each other, right? If each of these product has their own virtue, it has their own negative point over the other one, right? So your approach should be very much customer centric, and that's why uh, we all are going into hyper personalization, right? I mean, whenever we are building some offers, or we are trying to curate some offer for a customer, we are not creating it just for a standard format, right? We try to understand, or the banks, they are trying to understand that what is the actual need of the customer, what that customer wants, right? It has to be very contextual, right? The uh, Before you create any offer or before you reach out to any customer, right, you should first need to understand the difference between the need and want for that customer, what that customer need and what the customer wants, right? And based on that you create the offer, based on that you identify the customer and you reach out to him. There goes the digital platforms that actually help you to build this. And for that, obviously, you need data, you need AI, you need API, right? But ultimately is the mindset. And that mindset is that I need to treat each of my customer uniquely, distinguishedly, so that my position before that customer will be very unique. Otherwise, there are many other players we have who are offering the same thing, right? So this one trend in a very generic way I have seen. Otherwise, technology per se, GenAI, AI, open banking, embedded finance, these all are there. But the mindset is that I need to treat my customer separately, individually.
Excellent. No, that's a that fantastic viewpoint, and it's so good to know that the banking industry is being more customer centric now in
Yes.
launching new products, new features, and technology being an enabler for all of that. And what are your views of the roadblocks that one faces or a digital leader faces when implementing some of these new age technologies in banking?
See, one thing is that what we are doing today, let's say a new technology has come up, and we evaluate the technology and we found that this technology can suit a couple of my requirement, and let's build it. Let's build some solution around it. But there are many applications which we have today. Those are not completely cloud native, right? Those are still in those era where legacy application is stored. So building some advanced thing on top of those legacy application is always a challenge, right? Now here comes the question on priority. Which one you want to prioritize? You want to prioritize your legacy to cloud native application migration, or you want to build some new technology on top of the legacy application, right? Because the moment you are trying to build some advanced technology like GenAI and all on top of your legacy application, it might not work, or it might not give you the same output which you are expecting, right? So this prioritization is very important. Also, if you see the changes in the market are so high. 2022, we didn't even know that there is a thing called GenAI. Then that ChatGPT, OpenAI thing came in 2022 December, and everything got changed, right? We all are now talking about ChatGPT now, GPT-4, 4.5. These things are coming up now. Which one you want to pick? That's very important, right? Even in the business also, in digital business there are multiple avenues, right? You have deposit, you have lending, you have your payments. Now when you are trying to build something, right, with your limited budget, with your limited timeline and all, which product or which platform you want to prioritize? So this prioritization is the main thing for me. I mean, if you ask me, uh, probably we all are struggling over it, that which one to pick first and which one to go to second, right? So this prioritization is the main roadblock, right? Otherwise regulation, and so I never personally, and this is completely my personal view, I never treat regulation as a roadblock.
Mhm.
Because when there is a regulation, that means it is been implemented to guardrail few concerns,
Yeah.
right? So regulation cannot be a roadblock, but how you build a product, how you build a journey within the framework of the regulation with a stipulated time, that's a challenge, and that challenge we all are facing, and probably we all know how to solve it, right? But this regulation is obviously, I mean, how to deal with the regulation, that is a challenge. And third one is that uh, the revenue, definitely.
Mhm.
I mean, whatever we are building in digital, right, the adoption will not, you will not get in on the very first day.
Mhm.
Again, my completely my personal view. The revenue, you may need some time, you need to do lot many D2C campaigns. There are, you need to create the funnel on all the campaigns. You need to see how your campaigns are working. Not all the campaigns will be a success one. Now which all you want, again that question of prioritization comes. You are running 10 campaigns, and on the first week you saw that out of these 10, 5 are not working correctly. Now either you prioritize those other 5 on top of this, or you continue with this, right? So this prioritization again act a very important role, right? So prioritization, regulation, and revenue monetization and
Mhm.
all, right? So these all are the very common roadblocks or challenges we face.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So Abhijit, during our conversation, many times we have talked about GenAI, right?
Hmm.
So, what is GenAI for you in terms of digital banking?
It's a tool that can help me uh, understand and identify my customer needs. It can help me to reach out to my customer with their actual solution or a very contextual solution to their problem statement. If I have to give a 2 marks question answer, so it will be like this.
Yeah.
But it has a very bigger picture. With GenAI, we can do many things. For example, this hyper personalization of offering, right? Let's suppose we have data lakes, right? Where I have the whole data of my customer, that what are the transaction type of transactions and all. And based on that, maybe we can figure out that that particular customer has a very keen interest in uh, shopping, or maybe he has a keen interest to do deposit. Maybe he is not a very regular depositor, right? But based on the data, GenAI can tell us that there can be a chance that this customer may be a very good depositor, so nudge him with some deposit offers and all. Or maybe using GenAI, we can on cybersecurity. GenAI has a very huge use case. So nowadays everything is around API calls. Now API calls are what? It's an endpoint call. Point A will call to point B. It's a direct communication. Maybe I have a gateway in between that can see whether this communication is done via a proper channel or not. Now, in this type of architecture, till the time you face the threat, right? Till the time you are not getting a threat in your gateway, you will never understand there can be a potential threat, right? So suppose one of my customer, he's calling a balance inquiry API 10 times in a day. That's a regular common trend. And the accepted volume which we have agreed is 20. Now till the time he's 10 or 12 or 13, I'm okay. As a matter of fact, till 19 I'm okay. All of a sudden I found that this particular customer has started calling this balance inquiry API 18 times. All of a sudden, from 10 to 18, there is a jump. So it's around 80% jump, right? Apparently within the framework, it has no problem because we already have agreed to 20, right? But there may be a propensity that this customer, there are some rogue application has gone in their premise, and that's why this jump has happened, right? Here GenAI can help you to identify the advanced threat protection. We call it ATP, right? So hyper personalization to offer identification to cybersecurity, there are many aspects of banking where GenAI can help. But the only challenge with GenAI is that since we still not very clear up to what extent we can expose or we can use this particular framework. There are many data. For example, this example of cybersecurity, right? It's a very common technology. Using GenAI, we can do. There are many other organizations also doing it. But here, if I have to implement it, I need to expose my API gateway payloads and all to GenAI. Now, up to what level I can do that? Those regulations till the time are not very clear with us. We probably not able to implement it. But since the technology is here, since the solution is here, I'm pretty sure in due course this regulation will also come, and we'll definitely use this GenAI at a certain extent.
So, how do you envision GenAI transforming the banking sector in next 5 to 10 years?
5 years will be too late. If you ask me, in 2 3 years, next 2 3 years, there will be good transformation around GenAI. For example, nowadays we all are struggling with customer acquisition cost, right? CAC is getting very high, right? D2C campaigns and all are, it's not yielding that much return, right? And this is a common problem. GenAI will help us there, because if I see a customer is coming to my platform and without completing the journey, it just get dropped. With the help of GenAI, I can actually identify the what missed out for this particular customer. I have 100 traffic coming every day to book a personal loan, or to let's suppose to any other industry. Let's say quick commerce, right? In quick commerce, there are multiple categories, n number of categories in their platform. Now, through a GenAI, we can identify that if a traffic is coming to my platform and it's going to different categories or catalogs, which one he is figuring out and which one he is picking up and which one he is not, and why he is not picking up those. With GenAI, we can solve this problem. Similarly, in banking also, there are many such use cases where customers' behavior, their behavioral pattern, we can identify. So this behavioral pattern will help. I mean, identification of this behavioral pattern in case of GNA will be the huge use case, and that can transform not only bank in every other industry. For example, insurance. In insurance, one of the biggest challenge is the claim settlement, right? Just imagine with GenAI, if we can identify the actual problem state and why it's getting delayed. Normally, whenever a person is coming to claim settlement, we need to understand the sentiment what he's having on his mind. I mean, obviously, he has gone through some problem. Then only he has made that no payment, and that's why he's trying to recover that money, right? So with GenAI, we can help the customer for a easy settlement. Also, at the same time, understand the problem statement and identify the best solution. So, insurance, quick commerce, banking, everywhere GenAI will transform in next 2-3 years. But I do perceive.
Right. Abhijit, with such a strong background in API banking, I think you're the best person to answer the next question, which is what is open banking?
Okay, I'll try to give you with an example. So, what is open banking, right? So, when I was in school, my dad used to work in one of the MNCs, and he used to have a holiday on every Friday. And normally, I used to see that in every month, right? At least once he used to go to bank, right? And Friday normally banks are open. So whenever I asked him that why you are going to a particular bank or that particular branch, he used to say, I mean, this is how banking happened, right? And those are the days I'm talking about, that when core banking, CBS and all these things were not there. So he was having some account in some PSU bank, and on particular branch he's go. Then after a few years, I saw that he says, no, I don't need to go to that branch because it's 2 to 3 kilometers far from our house, and I'll go to the branch nearby. So I said, okay, fine. I mean, this bank remains same. He said, yeah, the bank name remains same, but I'm going to the other branch. Okay. Then I went to college, I did my engineering. After that, I did a master's. And by that time, I figured that my dad, he's saying now, even in any city, I can go to any branch. Now the core banking thing came. Then I introduced him to internet banking in 2007-8, if I'm not wrong. Probably in 2008. He had that internet banking access. Then debit card. He started doing the transactions from multiple POS, right? Then mobile banking app came, where he need not to be dependent upon the internet banking. Now if you see, you don't even need to be dependent upon the bank's digital premises. You can do your financial transaction from any of the app. You are going to your PSP app, you are doing a fund transfer. I mean, all these UPI transactions are what? It's a financial transaction, doing a fund transfer instantly, right? Instant payment and all. Then you can check your balances. Account aggregator has come, where from your one bank account you can see the other bank's balances and statements and all. So this breaking the barrier, this is open banking, where the customer is not been restricted to use one single platform, one single brand, or one single digital premise. He can do banking from anywhere, right? So if you see that example I gave, or the story I told you, right? So initially we are just restricting that user to go to a particular branch. May what the branch is far from his house and all, but he has had no other choice. Now you are not even dependent upon your own bank's digital premise, right? Uh, to be very honest, the number of IMPS transactions you are doing in a month and the number of UPI transactions you are doing, the number difference, right?
Yeah.
So that freedom is open banking.
Yeah.
So this is one use case, or probably this a practical example. But if you have to go by the history, this all came from PSD2 norms. It happened in Europe, right? When open banking and European Union, they give a mandate that banks need to share the consented data or transactional data with fintechs, right? Because they are trying to build an open banking framework, because there are many countries in Europe who are not very strong with banking and law, right? And fintechs were coming up. Big names like Revolut and all came, right? And account aggregator also came over there, right? If I'm not wrong, Yardley has launched that account aggregator platform where people can check their statement from any of the digital apps, right? So this is how open banking started, and API is an applied part of open banking, right? If you had not API, probably open banking wouldn't have flourished this level. Maybe that idea or concept would have been there, but this type of success of open banking wouldn't have come. And in India also, we see open banking, or sometimes we call it API banking. That started in 2017-18 when one of the largest private banks, they started exposing their services to third party ERPs to cater banking services or native banking services to their own customer, right? Let's say there is a bank called A. um, it has 15-20 internet banking services for their current account or corporate account customers. So these services they expose to a ERP, who are the, I mean, that ERP is also having a common customer base with that bank. So that common customer base, they need not to log into that bank's internet banking or mobile banking platform. They can do the transaction through that ERP. So this was the first use case of open banking in India. We call it connected banking. And nowadays almost all the banks are having this connected banking. And later on when UPI came, all these balance inquiry services, and these all have become the use case of open banking. There is a very huge future, right? Because the way we all are talking about the financial inclusion and all, right? The whole world is talking about inclusivity. Now, uh, there are many pockets where banks cannot reach directly, right? Maybe because of the operational cost, or maybe because of the reach and all, right? So fintechs are coming up on that space where they are trying to help bank to reach out to those spaces, get those customers, right? And this entire integration are being done via open banking platform. So this is what open banking in Europe or in India, right?
Excellent. Thank you so much for that answer. And another term that we hear quite often along with open banking is embedded finance. Is it an extension of the same or is it something different?
So if open banking is a superset, right, then one of the subset is embedded finance. Embedded finance means, so the best example of embedded finance I already gave you, that connected banking thing. So let's say a very practical example. Let's suppose John is a guy who is having a shop, right? And he doesn't have any banking account or anything. It may happen that he doesn't have any current account. Now, some fintech reached out to him, introduced that customer, John, to a particular bank, right? And when he was being introduced, he got 2-3 options on that fintech's platform, where he saw bank A is offering some X% interest, or bank B is offering some Y benefits and all that. He choose one of those, and from there his banking journey started. Just imagine, his banking journey started, but his introduction to banking or modern finance started with a fintech, right? Now he got that bank account open, then he started putting some money over there. He's doing that day-to-day ledgers, day-to-day transactions, but he's not logged into that banking app. What he's doing all these accounting as well as the finance or the transaction through that fintech's ERP, right? Then based on his data, based on his transaction, he got some good offers. That offer been fetched by fintech, but been curated by some other bank, right? So this is an embedded finance example, right? This will help, especially in our country. It will help us to scale the numbers, to reach out to more customers, to reach out to larger segment. Because as I told you, there are certain pockets where it's really difficult to reach, right? Where you need more hand holding, where you need a not self assisted, rather an assisted journey, right? So there this type of embedded finance kind of concept will help. And again, is a subset of open banking, and embedded finance without API is not possible. And a concept called open API, where uh, it's a common standard of API. Any organization or any user can call that API, right? So this open API or API banking, those are another applied part of embedded finance.
Well, it looks like open banking and embedded finance is a big boon for the customers because now they can access banking from different apps, just beyond the regular
Yes,
banking
yes,
app.
yes.
And also, it's a boon for banking because now they can have access to a wider range of customer base, which probably they couldn't tap into earlier. But my next question is about potential risks that open banking or embedded finance can have, and then what are some of the ways in which you can mitigate those risks?
See, one very common problem statement in case of open banking is that who owns the customer at which stage. So let's say, that if we go by that example, let's say that fintech has introduced John, that customer, right? Now he has never gone to that bank's platform to open the account. Whatever the demographic detail or whatever the detail he has entered it into that fintech's app, right? But this data is flowing back to that bank. Suppose that customer or that potential customer, he has entered any wrong data and the validation has failed. Who is failing the validation? Ultimately, it is going to bank. The bank should validate.
Yep.
But who is sending this data to bank or who is sharing this data to bank? That fintech. So who owns that validation, right? Sometimes it also happens that onboarding, acquisition, everything is done. Now, when that servicing will happen, who will service that customer? My account has got opened from a fintech app. Although my account has opened with a particular bank, I am holding that bank account, but I may not log into that bank's mobile banking app or internet banking. I may come to fintech only. Now, with whom I'll be sharing my problem statement? Can all of my bank account related queries be resolved by that fintech, or will have to be dependent upon that particular bank? And who owns that customer at that point? So this is a very common challenge, right? Because see, nowadays whenever you are onboarding a customer, you always want to offer him some other products also, right? Although we talk about different selling propositions and all, but yes, it's a common thing. I mean, if I see a customer is coming to me and he's opening an account, I would like to offer him a credit card. I would like to offer him some deposits and all, right? Now, can I offer that? Because that customer has been introduced by a fintech, right? That fintech may have a better offer for that customer from other bank, right? Some other bank may have a better incentive rates and all with that fintech. So who owns it? That's a very common problem, and that's very ambiguous also. Also, at the same time, whenever we are exposing APIs, there are standards, there are frameworks, right? We follow, there are audits and everything happens. But still, sometimes we see drop offs. Customer starts the journey, just get drop off. Now, who will nudge that customer to complete the journey? Whether the fintech or the bank. So these are the confusions always there. I mean, this is one common problem. And obviously, if it is an API, APIs are very high-end technology where there are many AppSecs, or there are many cybersecurity norms are there to ensure that nothing get leaked. But still, sometimes it may happen that API fails, right? So these are the potential risks, and two things we need to do. One, from the very beginning, we should have a common agreement that this much we can do with this customer. The fintech can reach out to for this aspect, and the bank can go till this aspect. That that clarity should be there. Otherwise, you will start the integration, you will start the journey and all, and after some time you will fail because that agreement is missing, right? And also that cybersecurity norms. I mean, If banks are exposing APIs, it means uh, we are trying to leverage our services, we are exposing our technical capabilities to the outer world, right? And the norms to consume that API we put, the consumers or the fintechs, they have to abide to that. So
Right.
these two things will have to be very clear from the
Sure.
very beginning.
Yeah. So while we talk about embedded finance and open banking, right? So how can banks enhance customer trust while adopting these digital first approaches?
So one very common problem in digital world I have seen, customers, they are very curious to do the journey. I mean, if you offer a customer with a new product or new journey, na, he will be very, curious to start it. But at the end, when that completion will happen, where he has to either make some payment or he has to give some final consent, then they just drop. So somehow, I personally feel that the education or the awareness about that digital first thing is very important. I mean, we need to, whenever we are launching some product, we are launching some change, or we are launching some, new service, we should aware the customer. Normally what we do, we just send an offer that you do this, then you will get that. But why you should do this? That is very important, right? Because whenever it's about, see, Indian customers, and that is again my personal view, I have dealt with many other geographies, and I have seen that Indians, about money or about their finance, are very particular. They normally don't want to gamble with their money. Whenever they are putting their hard-earned money, na, it's, they're very very particular, and they know that, or at least they want to know that what they are going to do, right? And banks also, I mean, it's our responsibility, right? All, I mean, because it's about money. I mean, if we don't uh, follow that rule, if we don't, I mean, keep that trust, then where will they go, right? So about these things, we are very, I mean, the customer and the banks, they are very particular, right? So we need to educate the customer about the changes before offering them, right? So this way we can, increase our trust factor. Also, uh, the consent. Every time we are building something, right? Let's say we have built one deposit journey or we built some lending journey, the consent is very important. The complete terms and conditions, right? Sometimes people don't read, and probably most of the time people don't read terms and condition, but there should be a common simulated format we should show to the customer before he is giving the final consent, that if you are going to give the consent, this will happen with you, right? Let's say he has applied for a personal loan. Before applying to the personal loan, right, I mean the final stage, when he will be entering some OTP or some authentication, before that we should simulate the entire probable solution, that this is the amount, this is the rate of interest. Sometimes we call it key facts statement, right? Key fact sheet, KFS. So that KFS should be very clear, that if you are going to enter the OTP or the authentication, then this will happen to you. Similarly, in case of deposit also. So this way we can increase the trust. Otherwise, sometimes what happen, uh, in order to make a very exciting journey, a very tech heavy journey, we sometimes miss these things. Maybe it's not a very huge problem, but sometimes we miss that trust. And again, in case of digital, trust is very important. Before you make a nice customer experience, na, you should build a customer, trust. So trust is also an experience nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also touching upon cybersecurity. So what are the best practices for innovation and cybersecurity?
See, nowadays almost all the banks, and rather all the large organizations, they are having a huge data, right? India is a country where all these different segment of businesses, they are having the huge number of data. And one very common problem in data driven architecture is that there are many data silos, and you can't help it, because Just imagine 15, 20 years ago, one bank account has got opened, and during that time, the information which we have gathered in order to open that account, and today when you are opening an account, the difference in the data set are very, very high, right? And where we are putting those data, all those legacy applications, there are many data pockets or data silos. So first we need to identify the silos. Who are having the access over those silos? Who has in which all applications? And on those applications, which set of users are having these accesses? This we need to identify. Then we need to create a common data lake where we'll put all the data. I mean, all those data silos data will be putting in that data lake. This way, we can ensure that there is no, you know, unauthenticated access of data, right, or unauthorized access of data. This is one common cybersecurity, practice we do. Also, at the same time, we need to be doubly sure before we are exposing our API that whether our this particular API which I'm going to publish, whether it is as per the framework or not. For that, we need to create an API framework based on the severity of the data being transmitted through that API, right? We should categorize it high, mid, or low based on the severity, right? PII data, we should never expose it in clear text and all. In fact, nowadays that data privacy guidelines are coming up, right? That will be really helpful, because every time we try to build API, or every time our customers or as a fintechs and all, they come and uh, offer us to share a few APIs, one thing we commonly miss out is that a common framework. Now with this DPDP guidelines and all, that framework will be reinstated,
Yeah.
right? That will be a huge help for all the large organizations. So going back to the cybersecurity point, one is that API securities and all, data silos and all, common data lake and all. The third one, which is most important, is that before exposing your API should be tested thoroughly, and you should have a common audit agreement, right? I mean, I just have built one API and then expose it in gateway and then give it to one partner. My life doesn't end here, right? I should have a strict policy. In every 3 months or 6 months, I should audit what all data being transmitted, or why this API being used, or what are the use cases we have seen, right? Because the moment you are onboarding a API consumer in your gateway, that very moment he got some access in your digital premise or in your digital perimeter. Now after that, what he is doing, you need to thoroughly check. So these are the common security postures we recommend and we follow. There are many other, but since it's security, we can't disclose in detail.
Yeah. And so, as the financial industry or the banking industry moves from legacy systems to digital first systems, what are the ways in which leaders can foster a culture of innovation within employees?
The, before you start talking about innovations and all, or digital first thing, first you need to change your mindset. First you need to believe that I want to be digital and I am digital, right? So that common barrier you need to break, because the moment you are talking about digital, uh, there are many other questions come up, that what will happen to my physical channels and all, right? See, one very common thing which I have observed, and this is across industry, and many of my peers have also agreed to it, is that for any digital channel, in any large and established organization, their main competitor is not their other competition's digital channel. Their main competition is their own physical channel. You're getting me? So why I am making this digital thing? Whether to replace my physical channel or to keep some better experience, go for some better revenue stream, uh, go beyond my physical channels. I mean, there are certain things which my physical channel can do better. There are certain things which I can do better in digital world, right? So that, which are those better things, or which are those points which can oversee the physical channel, that you need to identify, and that you need to convince, right? And first you need to convince yourself that you want to be digital. Otherwise, what will happen? It will just remain a checklist item,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know digital, probably for many organizations, it is a checklist, but that's a very costly checklist, right? You just cannot afford it. So you need to be very cautious. You need to know that why you are doing this. That is very important. That why we are doing this, by when I'll be doing this, and what will be the actual impact. So this one common thought, if we can foster in our organization before we start the innovation. And also in case of innovation, you know, innovation is what? I mean, a scientist is researching something on something in a lab. It will not yield you some result, but there should be always a next time. And in next time, you should not be shying away the fact that my previous venture was not right. Now this venture I need to be a successful one. So this type of mindset you need to create. It's not a Innovation is not your business channel.
Mm-hmm.
Innovation is your, it's kind of research and development, right?
Right.
So sometimes we mix it between innovation and business, and we start expecting that all of my innovations will give the revenue, but in reality it doesn't happen in that way.
Yeah. And technology evolves at a breakneck speed.
Hmm.
We used to talk about MLAI, now it's Gen AI. We also talk about Web3, and every 6 months there's a new
Yes.
technology word that comes up. So for you personally, being a technology leader, a banking leader, how do you stay updated with different technologies?
See, if the question is whether I should get updated with all this, definitely I should stay updated, because, as I told you, I mean, GenAI has been introduced almost 2 years, right? But till now, none of the large organizations in India has implemented it very successfully or very widely, right? But still, business is booming, right? But whether we should learn it or not, definitely we should learn. We should know what are the new cutting edge technologies coming up. But again, that question going back to priority, right? Whether I should implement it or not, whether it's the best time to implement this new age technology or not, for that you need to know the technology first. So whenever a new technology comes, at least I personally give my time to it, right? I try to simulate those learning in a very sandbox environment. We see whether it is actually, has some impact on my current processes or not, right? This one practice I do follow. But again, when the question of prioritization comes, we decide whether to implement or not.
Absolutely. And I think probably one of the last questions from my side before I pass it on to Siddharth is, uh, and it sort of it alludes to one of the points that you mentioned earlier was, the Indian customer mindset and digital banking in India. So, do you have any perspective on how digital banking in India is vis-a-vis other geographies like maybe the Middle East or the European markets or the US markets?
In India, it's digital first. In other geographies, which I have seen, maybe I haven't seen it very thoroughly, but which I have seen, it's not completely digital first. And not only banking, just take an example of payment. The revolution UPI has done,
Yeah.
it's a global news, it's a global innovation. I'm not sure this level of instant payment transfer we can see in any other country. I mean, with all due respect, in federal, that Fed Pay has come in last year. That too is not very straight through like UPI, right? Even in states, if you want to transfer money from your own account to another, what I have heard that there are charges. But in India, if you see that IMPS network, that account to account transfer within your own bank account,
Mhm.
right? These all are very, real time. Also, the charges are very less, and in UPI though there is no charges. And if you see on top of UPI, there are many other products. For example, credit line on UPI, or this UPI 123 pay
Mhm.
through feature phone and all. So these products are the innovation. These are the real innovation. So innovation is what? Innovation is that you have identified a problem statement which is very common in nature in your society, and you are solving it with a product or some solution, and that is changing the life of everyone or almost everyone, right? UPI has done the same thing. Now, go if you see in Australia or in other part, right? This level of instant payment transfer is not there. So our banking, our payment structures are very digital, right? You're talking about Middle East. In Middle East, if I'm not wrong, they are also coming up with the open banking concept. There are many large banks. They are launching their open banking platform. But to be very honest, the maturity which we have, the scale which we have seen or we have achieved till then, these are far beyond that. So we are much ahead, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we should be complacent,
Yeah.
because see, when we were building things, we didn't have any benchmark, so we have set the benchmark for
Yeah.
us,
Mhm.
right? We knew that we have this billion of population and we need to cater them with a particular solution. But for them it's much easier because they have an example, and that is us. So it's sometimes very difficult to be the first,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So we should be complacent, but to be very honest, we are much ahead
Yeah.
than them.
Yeah. So Abhijit, I would like to understand your perspective on startups. So what advice would you give to startups in developing innovative products for banking sector?
See, whenever, I mean, it's not only for startup, even for uh, digital bankers, right? Whenever we are building something, right, we are building for our customer. Startups are building for a certain segment, and we are also building for a certain segment, right? So whenever we are building something, now there should be a problem statement, and probably this problem statement are what I'm keep on repeating, because what we have seen, that sometimes we think that this is a problem, but in reality that may not be the problem. So that's why when we build a solution, we build a product or build some service on thinking about that problem, and when we reach out to customers, we see that he's thinking, no, I mean, this is not at all my problem. I mean, thanks, you have come with a product, but I don't need it. So when you build something and you are reaching out to people to offer that product and they are saying, I don't need it, then that means that the problem which you have thought in the very initial day, that may not be the right problem, right? So for everyone, be it a startup or you know upcoming product managers in digital banking, identify the problem statement and validate it with user. Until and unless you are validating with your user and you think that this is a problem, that may be the right approach, right? So problem statement. And also, sometimes what I have seen, I don't want to point any particular example, but I've seen that whenever I'm trying to build something innovative, we don't consider a couple of points which are very pertinent for success. For example, the securities, right? The consents. Uh, I may create a journey where with one single OTP, the entire onboarding will happen, but it maybe if I add one more OTP, that could ensure that there is no data leakage or there is no lack of consent. So these things we need to consider. It may impact the customer journey, it may impact the onboarding journey, but that will give you a much more secure platform, right? Because at the end of the day, customer, when they are entering some data or when they are carrying out some transaction, it is our responsibility to secure that transaction, right? So these two things we should always keep on mind. Otherwise, there are so many fintech innovations or startup innovations we have seen, and there are many collaborations we have seen in our country which are very successful, right? All those PSP app, what they have done. So we are in a right point. We just need to be, again, we cannot be complacent, and we just need to be on top of everything.
Yeah. So being in such a long time in the banking industry, right? So I would like to understand what is your most significant learning experience in the digital transformation for the banking industry.
Most significant learning experience. Just don't think that you know each and everything about your customer, because at the end of the day, it is you who is trying to help your customer, right? But before reaching out to him, understand what he wants. You may build a very nice product, but that is from your point of view. Try to see it from your customer's point of view. Ultimately, end of the day, whatever you are building it for your customer. And here in case of digital, you just can't go and talk to him, right? You don't even know in which part of this journey customer is getting dropped. So you need to understand each and everything about your customer, and end of the day, just know one thing: the final call will be taken by the customer. It's not you. And whatever the call is, you'll have to accept it.
All right. Abhijit, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
That was a wonderful session. Thanks a lot for all the insights.
Thank
And
you.
we sincerely hope that we get another opportunity like this sometime in the future where we, dive deep into one of the topics and explore it further. So thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks, everyone.